Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Eisenreich, and I'm a parent partner for the Lucas County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And today we are talking to a really good friend of mine, Renee Palacios. We're going to discuss some alternate funding sources or alternate funding ways to get money. So let's start with Renee and tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, why was looking for alternate funding even in your path?
Well, so we have a great little boy named Devin. He is 14 years old and he is on the spectrum. He also has ADHD, cognitive disabilities. So we laugh that, he's going super fast, but he has no idea where he's going. So, he didn't come with a handbook, and we've kind of just tried this and tried this and tried this to help provide the best quality of life that he could have. And when he had a very serious fight or flight response it started probably when he was 6 or so, and by 8, it was like all tennis shoes all day, because you never know when you're taking off. So he ended up running out into the middle of Central Avenue one time, and out in Tremainsville another time. And so it was at that time, Tammy, that we're like, there's got to be something else that we can do for this kiddo. Like, how do we sort of help calm him? And so we did some research, and therapy dogs are found to be really, really great for kiddos on the spectrum. So, we put our name on a waiting list. We knew it was going to be a while, and then we'll figure out the rest later. Well, after 2.5 years, we got matched with our dog, Sarah. And the financial responsibility for us to get Sarah was $2,000. Okay, so I don't have that. I was born terribly good looking, but not wealthy. So, and then you get into that weird space, Tammy, where it's like pride and like I should be able to provide this, and like asking people for money is weird, and I've never asked for money. So you kind of got to walk through that and be like, okay, so the love for my kid is much stronger than the pride and ego I have in myself. Okay, so once you make that decision, you start fundraising. And so for us, I like to chat, clearly, but I'm still, it's still awkward to raise money and ask for things for your kiddos. So what we end up doing is going to the school and kind of sharing about Sarah and our dream to have this therapy dog and why. And they said, how about we help you fundraise? Well, what does that look like? Well, what if we put together a flyer and we'll call it a Dog for Devin Day? And kids can come in, and for $1, they can wear a hat for school that day, and we'll see what we raise. So I'll tell you, out of that $2,000 we needed, the school helped us raise $1,800. So we did it. And I think what's so fun about this story is that, as a mom, again, there's that weirdness of some of this stuff, right? It's the asking for money. It's, what do I say on that flyer? Like, do I put my whole kid's story out there? Like, what do I say? And so, can I keep going with the story? Because I'm
Please.
You good, Sammy? Okay. Everybody else good? Okay. And so what do I put on this flyer, right? Like, how far do I share our journey? And I just wrote the things like, Devin has autism, and he gets scared very easily in crowds, and his first instinct is to run. And so help us, provide this this kiddo this life-saving piece that he needs to provide his safety and security. And obviously it was less words, but on a flyer. The irony of the whole thing, though, Tammy, is that, like, as much negative as I was telling myself, like, asking for money is weird, and do I look weird, and do I look like I'm putting my kid's business out there, at the end of the day, I was getting comments from parents that was like, thank you so much for sharing your journey and Devin, because it allowed us as a family to have conversations about invisible disabilities, right? And I always say, as much as I always thank people for including Devin, sometimes I forget that he is such a blessing to them too. And without sharing the story and without talking about it, those kids wouldn't have had the experience to learn about somebody different than them, and somebody who thinks differently than them. He needs a therapy dog because his brain is different. right? So so those conversations were able to be had in our community. So that's my favorite story to share. And I hope it empowers someone to get through the weird, uncomfortable feeling about asking for money, because you just never know, how people may respond to it, and the seeds of growth and understanding and acceptance can happen from that.
Okay. Well, let's start with the school. Like, to me, I'm looking at this as another funding opportunity. Who did you reach out to at the school? Was it his IEP team? Was it his homeroom teacher and she kind of took it up the chain? Like, what was your experience dealing? And granted, let's let everyone know you are in a very small school in Michigan. And would you say there's 22 in his class? Or he's
Yes.
graduating? I mean, it's probably pretty small. So how many kids are we talking? A total of 100 helped with this, you think? I guess I'm
Oh,
trying to get all the.
maybe, but I think the key too, Tammy, is our relationships, right? It's weird and uncomfortable. So start with who you have a relationship with, right? So for us, it was his teacher. It was just his teacher, and she loved him, loves him, still does, I assume. And she, when we kind of shared all this with her, it just struck her heart. And my experience is teachers are amazing. Like, teachers are amazing, and they really do care about our kiddos. And so when I shared that story with her, that we needed to this fundraising, she talked to another teacher who talked to another teacher who loves Devin, and that's how it happened. So I don't think that there's a magical formula, to be honest with you. I wish I could say that there was, like, step one, talk to your IEP team. Step two, it's really, where your comfort level is and where your relationships are, so maybe you're involved in a church, right? Or maybe you're involved in Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, or maybe you're involved in I don't know, community, collaborating in your community in some other kind of way. I mean, we all have friend groups and anchor groups and people groups, right? So all you need is like one awesome person that's going to say, hey, wow, that sounds cool, and run with it. And I just would encourage people to really kind of see who's in their networks and start with those relationships first. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to share your story. Don't be afraid to feel awkward about it. Don't feel afraid, because again, we were able to raise the funds that we needed for our dog and educate a community on top of it. So.
Mhm. So those connections that you have also open the door to another opportunity you were able to have with Devin in regards to the swimming lessons, is what I'm thinking about.
Yes. So that's kind of a weird story too. So my kiddo needed to learn how to swim, like a lot of our kids do. But he has sensory, overload experiences. And so we enrolled him at the YMCA to get some swim lessons, because that's what you do. Can't see my air quotes, those who are just listening, but typical families, you go to the YMCA and you learn how to swim. Okay, so we tried that. And when I watched Devin take a chunk out of the swim instructor and the blood sort of pool into the water, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So, and the reason why is this was an indoor pool at the YMCA, and the echoing and the smells and all the things. Not that my kid is bad, he just had an absolute sensory overload. And of course, mom does a lot of apologizing and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this without being at the YMCA pool? So we ended up moving to Blissfield, and we bought a house with a pool. So okay, and listen, this might not have been my best decision ever. Like, I got a kid with autism who doesn't know how to swim. So the best thing I do is buy a house with a pool. We had faith that we would figure this out, right? So what we did was worked with a group called Project I Am, who receives our funds through a big event called Acoustics for Autism, which is amazing. Plug to them. And so they are interested in funding things outside the box, right? So they understand, an organization that understands my kid is a biter when you put him in the YMCA pool, with the smells and the sounds and the echoes and all that. So I had a creative idea. I'm like, all right, how about if I Google private swim lessons and see what the going rate is to have somebody come to your house and provide private lessons. So Google's a beautiful thing. And they said $50 to $60 an hour. And I was like, wow, I need to change my profession. But before that, I got to figure this out. And I wrote a grant to Project I Am for $600 for 12 lessons at $50 an hour. And got it approved. No, wait, no, that's not the story. I wrote the grant and then I secured the person. Yes, sorry. I lie sometimes. So it was just a concept at that time, but I wanted to make sure I could pull it off, right? So I went on to our local Facebook group in the small town that I'm in and said, hey, looking for a lifeguard, somebody who's certified, a certified lifeguard, CPR certified, you know, and I put all the credentials together. I'm looking for a private instructor, $50 an hour. Well, my local community was like, oh, do you know Julie? Oh, do you know Sam? Oh, do you know? And then I started counting which name came up the most in this little post. I'm like, well, she must be the best. It was very technical, Tammy. And so we found this young girl. She's a high schooler. She works at the YMCA. Hello, as a lifeguard. She's, you know, is a certified swim instructor. She's CPR certified, all the things. I got a copy of her. I offered her the job. I said, $50. Will you come over an hour to come over to my house and teach my son to swim? And then her parents were like, well, that's weird. We want to know why you're doing that, you stranger. And so then I had mom and dad over for some tacos, but that was another story, just to make sure that they understood this is legit, because it's weird. Like, I've just invited your teenage high school daughter over to my house to teach my kid to swim. Very strange. So again, all of, you know, this is just pieces and parts of my story, Tammy. So she started providing those swim lessons. So she came over 12 times for an hour and taught my son to swim. And to this day, he is amazing. I mean, are we going to join the Olympics? No. But do I feel comfortable that if he fell into a pond or something, you know, a larger body of water, will he survive? Yes. And so, yeah, so that's just a different kind of funding thing. It wasn't as, I mean, gosh, when I enrolled in YMCA services, Tammy, I like picked up the phone and scheduled it. This took a little more time, right? I had to find the lifeguard. I had to interview the lifeguard, and then I had to have mom and dad over for tacos to show them that we're not creepy weirdos. And then, you know, we had to do the lessons, commit to that every week for an hour. So that's my story about swim lessons. And yeah. And that I'm not a weirdo stalker, but you have to sometimes go out of your comfort zone again to get the funds that you need, that your kiddo needs for their own development. So there's that theme here in this conversation.
It is. Your story is very driven that way, in that direction. And I think that you are that proactive parent that's going to do whatever it takes for your child, and you tweak it to you go to your strengths. You talk about you sharing his story is very powerful. I definitely think hopefully that's coming across in this, but he's your kiddo. So
yeah, and I've met a lot of mamas who are really private about that, or they're awkward about that, you know, and I've written a lot of grants, and you know, there's always that spot where it says, tell us about your story, right? And I used to work in another job where I worked with families more often. But I'd always say to them, put your heart out there, like tell them the truth and what's going on. Like, first of all, there's no shame in your story. And second of all, you're writing to people who want to give you money. And you're writing to people who understand why you need the money. So when I went into my story with Project I Am, Tammy, about how, you know, life was good until the pool of blood from the lifeguard's arm, you know, started to fill the shallow end of our local YMCA. Like, okay, I'm dramatic, clearly, but I don't mind sharing that story because he's not bad. And I know that nobody would think that. But what it does tell you is, wow, this kid has some serious sensory, you know, challenges. So, wow, she really does need an alternate program to meet the needs of her kid. So, yeah, I would say, you know, share your story. You know, we mamas and dads of kiddos with disabilities, man, we're bulletproof. So, you know, go out there and share your story, because it only will help you in the end, because you're talking to people who really get it.
yep. Well, wonderful. And I always say, from the grant perspective, you know, of the scoring of a grant, anything that's going to stand out. And you can't tell me that if 5 of their board members read that story,
Absolutely,
didn't stand out to them. I always say, make them laugh, make them cry, share
yeah.
something about your child. I mean, get personal, you need that hook. I don't know how else to say that, especially in the autism world in regards to grants, because as we know, what is the number now? 1 out of 48, let's say 150, 1 out of 50 kids are having autism, and they're doing these intensive programs that are not cheap. So they are looking for grants. You have people that maybe, 10, 15 years ago wouldn't have looked for a grant that are now. So really having the guts to share your story is going to stand out. Like you said, they want to give you money. They want to hear that. So, anything else coming to your mind? I was going to just highlight Project IM's video and call it a day. But if you feel, are you open to talking to families? If I have families to reach out to me?
Yeah. I mean, does anybody have any questions? I'm open to questions or thoughts or, anything but, swear words I'll take at this point or complaints. I've had enough of those. My kids are home all day with a snow day. So yeah, but anything else I'm open to. Absolutely.
I don't see anything in the chat. What I wanted to show is, as I mentioned last year, I interviewed 12 different funding organizations, and Project IM is the grant for Acoustics for Autism, and their event is March 3rd. Another plug for them. It's an amazing organization here in Toledo. I think we're really lucky in Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan to have such a champion for children or individuals with autism. So it's not just, they're not age specific. They're wonderful. So if you see, each month I interviewed a different funding organization. So the recordings of those are here. So April's was I'm looking for Acoustics. I can't scroll down. Oh, it is under Project IM because I did it as the name of their grant, which their grant is called Project IM. So you go there, it's the recording of it, or actually the recording is here. And then this is their actual website. So super easy to apply. They do love to see your smiling face at their events. They do require that you, to get proper funding, you need to volunteer with the organization and help them out, whether it's cutting up raffle tickets into bundles of 10 or cleaning up trash after their event, those type of things. But they are a very amazing organization here in the Toledo area. So, okay. So,
hey, so I just saw a chat. I had somebody just asked about the volunteer piece, and you hit it right on the head. They do ask for you to volunteer there, and gosh, I that's no problem for what we've been given, right? Like they do ask that you give back to other families, and okay, sounds good. So I was asked, well, how did me and my husband work it out? So here's fun. This is funny. Like, listen, I have more patience with my son. Okay. He's right across from me with his headset on, so he can't hear me. He's working at home too. But listen, so I stay home with Devin. I don't do the volunteering. I send my husband out. And so my husband goes out to Acoustics for Autism and pulls trash. So he pulls trash for about 6 hours at that event. I don't love big crowds. And again, I'm better with Devin. So we split up that responsibility. And he's a vital piece of that event. That's the guy who pulls the trash.
but it's much humility.
That's humility for you, right? I'll probably say he's a good guy. I'll keep him. He's been around 21 years. Well, I stop now. So, I think you can get creative with this. And it's, yes, you have to volunteer, or it's a really strongly suggested, but you get to want to volunteer after a while, because this is a great organization that's provided a life-saving skill for my son to swim, right? Like, absolutely. My husband, I will send him out to pull trash for 6 hours.
Well, and their events are autism friendly. they have the 310, area. They get, and our kids love the music. To hear Nicole talk about how she got started and why, oh, you see, yes, it is, connecting with other parents is big. And also in that male component, we don't see as many dads at support groups and, educational seminars. It's usually the moms that are doing all that. So it is nice when the dads can have an opportunity to.
And it's important, I think, for us moms to encourage that too, right? Like, I don't know about all the husbands, out in the world, but mine is like, yes, I will, help. I will help our family. Right. And so as a manly man, his way, and he feels good about, investing in our son and what's, and support of the organization that's helped our family. He's grateful to go out and do it. And sometimes dealing with trash and is, easier than dealing with my son with autism. So we'll just say that. So 100% echo what you're saying, and get the dads involved, get your husbands involved, get your partners involved. And then they can connect too. And my husband really has connected with other guys, who are there at the event, looks forward to seeing them. And so, because our guys need connection too, right?
Yep. Jamela made a comment about the volunteer aspect. The grant itself is on their website. That's under scholarships. And right here, you'll see it says, please note that volunteers of Project I Am will be given preferential. A little bit, I don't know if it was on tape, but we talked about the scoring of the applications when grants come in. When they get more than what they can fund, how do you prioritize your applicants? So for me to tell you that funding organizations score out your application should not come as a surprise. But things that bring your application to the top of the pile are like when they specifically say volunteers, they're telling you right there, get preferential right there. Now, how do you sign up? Most of her events are on Facebook. Is that correct? And I know I'm friends with Acoustics, but I'm wondering if I'll just go to Project I Am and see if it's on there. But their big event is March 3rd, and it would be listed in there. You could message them. Right now, they're thanking all their sponsors, but definitely messaging them and saying, hey, I'd love to come out. Oh, wait, it says March 5th. Why did I think March 3rd?
I don't know. I thought the same thing. I'm like, now she's making stuff up.
So wait, is it the 5th? It is the 5th.
Yeah.
Sorry, March 5th. Maybe it was last year. But I don't know, for donations, I would just message them, like Project I Am, message them. There's email address on their website as well, info@acousticsforautism.com, and just say, hey, I'm looking to apply. Be open. I'm a parent. I have a kiddo with autism. I'm looking to apply. I know I need to volunteer. Where can I help? What do you need help with? And you'd be surprised. I mean, it's such an amazing, humongous event. What are they, 15th year, 16th year now? I mean, they have connections for you. A lot of times it's just going around and putting up their posters, which I'm guessing are up already, but putting posters up in the windows of all of the businesses in downtown Maumee to remind people, hey, this weekend is going to be, it's a Sunday all day event. Like I said, cutting raffle tickets into bundles of 10 and 50 and all that tedious time work. There's stuff you can do from home. So if you watch the video, as I mentioned on the Board of DD site, Nicole talks about that. It isn't meant to slave labor you. It's not, you're going to be putting up stages and tearing down lighting. Granted, if you know that, if that's something that you have the skill set to do, yeah, she's going to definitely tap into those resources that you have. That's where every family's story is different. I had a family that the grandmother went and helped put the baskets together, the different raffle baskets together in this child's name. Like she was volunteering, in place of the parents being able to. So it's super easy. It's not hard. They don't make it hard. It's not meant to be. So, but.
Yeah, there's perspective is you're giving back to other families for what you've been given. Really, that's the perspective.
Yeah.
That, we gotta, this is an organization that does a hell of a job to raise money for so many families. So, if it's 6 hours of your time or whatever, think about giving back to your community.
Okay. Kate is telling me that you can go on the website, but I'm guessing testimonials, contact us. I don't see like a running tab, like these are the things we need help with. I think on a day-to-day basis, things pop up constantly, probably up until the day of the event of things that they could use help with. So lots of great stuff. So, well, thank you. Does anybody, I don't want to miss the chat. When I'm sharing my screen, I can't always see the chat. So there's, okay, changes by what they need. So, well, thank you, Renee. It was a pleasure as always. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can go to lucasdd.org. Currently, I am under services, under eligibility and funding, but I am moving over to the resource tab under finding funds. So my name, my email, my phone, all my contact information is there, and I'm more than happy to help any family dwindle the list. I have a database of almost 750 funding organizations, everything from acoustics for autism like that, very specific, to wish granting, which is where you maybe need to share your story a little bit more. So, but it was a pleasure having you with us, Renee. And
No problem. No problem. I would just say, yeah, be creative. Start with your partners, start with your friends, start with the people that are around you, the groups that you're a part of, and think big.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.